Hello from Cleanfax. We're glad you're here with us today as part of the How to Land Better Clients webcast. This is Jeff Cross, Executive Editor of the Cleanfax brand, which includes the print magazine, the website, cleaning and restoration newsletters, social media platforms, and more, such as today's broadcast. Cleanfax is the only major media brand that concentrates equally on cleaning and restoration, so we have it all. I'll make a few promises to get us started. I promise that if you stick around for the next hour, you'll take away several key points on how to better build your business, whether it's cleaning or restoration. I also promise that the Q&A session we'll have during the presentation will answer some of the questions you have about marketing and managing your company. And lastly, I promise that there will be at least one technical difficulty during the hour, so hang with us. If that happens, please be patient. Now, to get us started, I want to say a few words about our guest presenters. We have two experts from the industry who have seen it all and done it all, although they probably would humbly deny that. We have Steve Marsh. He's the creator of the Be Competition Free and also the Single Truck Success Marketing Programs. You probably know Steve as a regular writer and contributor for Cleanfax. Steve will concentrate on helping you build your cleaning company. And then we also have Tim Miller, the president of Business Development Associates. He's a respected business coach who concentrates on helping restoration companies to grow and succeed. Tim is also a contributor for Cleanfax and supplies me articles that we enjoy. Tim will concentrate on helping you build your restoration company. Now, that being said, if you're in restoration, will you benefit from Steve's presentation? And if you're in cleaning, will you benefit from Tim's? Well, I guarantee you the answer is yes. You'll find several elements from each presentation that will work for your company, regardless of which industry you concentrate on. Of course, many of you do both cleaning and restoration, so you'll really benefit from today's presentation. Well, I'm sure you're tired of hearing me talking, so let's get right into our presentation, our first one. Let's welcome Steve Marsh. Steve, are you there with us today?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here to join you. And what I'm looking forward to sharing is a way to greatly increase the performance of everyone's marketing. And what I've heard over the years, I've been helping carpet cleaners out for 20 plus years in marketing, and I found some common elements that I think have created some challenges for companies when they're trying to market or advertise. And one of those is that people look at the customer base, the people out here we're trying to sell to, they look at it as just one big group of people. And that their whole point is to get their telephone number out in front of them to try to get them to call. And so a lot of times when I'll teach a class or a business seminar or something, is I'll ask the group, who is their target market? And a lot of times I'll get kind of blank stares back from people, and they don't really have a clear definition. Sometimes the answer I hear a lot of times is anybody with a dirty carpet. You know, that's who I want to call. Or other people will say, oh, I want high-end customers. And but they have a hard time getting it, because the question I also hear all the time is people complaining about the only people who call when I advertise are, you know, price shoppers. And so there's a lot of frustration, and I don't most people don't know why they're having such a hard time with their marketing, and it a lot of times isn't very profitable, and they get frustrated and they give up. So what I hope to clarify is to give one clear message as to how to reach that target market better. And so Jeff, if you would flick over to the next slide there, is we want to get off the idea that there's only one group of consumers. In fact, there is actually two very distinct consumer target markets. And the first one would be what we would be familiar with and call them budget consumers. They're the people who are looking for getting the most service they can for the least amount of money. And this is a very important consumer group for the carpet cleaning industry. Everybody kind of says, oh, we don't like those because they're not very profitable, and you know, they have dirtier carpets, and people like put that group down. But that really is a very critical consumer group for people coming into the industry who are trying to start a business. I don't know if you've ever stopped to think about how many customers it takes to fill a schedule, but generally a startup company needs about 1,000 customers per year to fill a work schedule. And that is a lot of people. And the way you're going to get those primarily if you're starting a business is to advertise. And the people who turn to advertising are going to be more of those budget-minded consumers who are trying to get the most service they can for the least amount of money. So this is a critical group for somebody starting out, and you have to focus there because you can't get the next group that I'm going to be talking to until you have a very sizable customer base to work from. So the first group is the budget consumers. So the second group is what I would call the full service consumers. So these are people who are not looking for the lowest price. Instead, they are willing to pay more for the services they get, but in exchange for that, they want to get more perceived value, more service, more professionalism from their service company. And so they're willing to pay more money, but they're not just giving away their money. They want something in exchange for the money that they're willing to give. So if you realize that there are two distinct groups, what each of those groups want is actually just the opposite of the other. So it's very important to know what are the themes that each of those groups find appealing to them, and to make sure that whichever group you're going after, that you're speaking to them and not the other one. Because if you mix messages, your advertising will look very confusing, and people will say, I don't think I'm in the right place, and they bounce off of your website or your ad and go to the next one. So what's very important is to very quickly let consumers know if they are in the right place. Am I in a place, a website, a business that is looking to service people willing to pay more? Are they willing to provide more service for my money? Or is this a place that is going to be providing more of the basics at an affordable price? And those consumers want to come in and at a glance be able to tell, are they in the right place? So for each of these groups, there are 5 distinct themes that are very persuasive. So I want to cover what those are. So the first one is for the group 1 is for those budget consumers, the ones, again, looking for the most they can. They're not always the low price. They're looking for the most service for a price that's in their budget range. So the first theme that they would be looking at, what's very important to them, you know, if I talk to carpet cleaners or other service business, I said, what's the first question people ask? And generally it's, how much do you charge? Well, this is going to be an important question for both groups, but this one in particular because they have a limited budget and they want to know right away, does what you charge fit into my budget, what I'm allowed to spend here? So when you're doing advertising, or let me narrow it down to a website. I'm going to talk about that so we don't have to keep bouncing back and forth. But when somebody glances at your website, is it very clear which of the groups you are? So if you're looking for those budget consumers, the thing you want to have is you want to emphasize that your company provides the service they're looking for at a very low price. So things they want to see is they want to see what those prices are at a glance. They don't want to have to ask for it. So if you want to be effective and grab people's attention, you're going to actually state and give an idea what your prices are. So in other words, you might have on above the fold on your homepage say, oh, we have a special for first-time customers of 3 rooms for $99, or whatever your pricing is. So people say, oh, I can afford that, or that's close to what I can afford, and they know they're in the right place, and they're going to then continue to look a little further. But so you want to emphasize that pricing and make that very clear in the beginning. And then in the copy on that website, you would want to include some of the words that also convey that idea. Those words could be something like affordable, or budget, or discount, or inexpensive, moderate, or reduced price. Those are some of the terms that, oh, this is exactly what they wanted to hear. We're in my price range, and then they want to look further. Now, there's some words that you don't want to use because they're looking to pay low price, but they're not looking for garbage work. So words you want to avoid is do not use the word cheap or basic or plain, anything that like makes it like you're not going to be able to do the job. So low price is the first big theme that they want to have. And of these 5 themes I'm going to go over, if you can get at least 3 of them into your site, you're going to be in good shape. They'll convey the message that you're after. The next theme for budget is that you have big and powerful equipment. And the reason this is important to these consumers, the budget consumers, is because this is not maintenance cleaning. This is more restorative cleaning. This isn't, they may have never had their carpets cleaned before. It's been years and they don't have a vacuum. So they know that. And they know they're going to need the most powerful equipment possible to do the type of job that's going to be required for their carpets. So big equipment, this idea that, oh, this big truck pulls up and it's all machine and, these power machines, this is very inviting to these consumers. So some of the terms you could use in your copy would be something like deep clean, or the most powerful equipment, or scrubbing, or most thorough, or this is the state-of-the-art equipment. These are some of the terms you want to put into your copy that, again, just emphasize that you have the power needed to do the restorative cleaning that's required. And thank you, Jeff, for flicking on to that next one. The third theme is speedy service. These people are in a hurry to have the work done. They generally wait to the last minute. It wasn't something that they normally would schedule to be done. And it's like, we need you almost today. And so the idea that you can be out there right away to take care of their problem because the mother-in-law is coming in 2 days, this is a very inviting offer to be able to make. So some of the terms there would be same-day service, fast, dries within an hour, we have extended hours, or we work weekends. Those are some of the ideas to convey we can get out there, we can meet your immediate need and get you ready for whatever that event is that you have coming up. The next theme is big guarantees. Now they like this because they're looking at their carpets and they know they should probably just light a match to it and put it out of its misery, but they can't afford to replace the carpet. And so what they do is they need somebody to come in and make their trashed out carpet look new. So the bigger the guarantee is, the more excited you make these consumers, because you're within their price range and then you're promising to perform miracles. And so this is very exciting to them. So money back guarantees, things like this, they really like that. So it's guaranteed stain removal, best cleaning ever, or is free, or guaranteed to look like new. These will get their attention. And so this, you want to get that type of consumer, just talk about those. But the other thing is they will hold you to that guarantee. So you better be able to back it up. Otherwise, you're going to have some trouble. And then the final theme then is before and after pictures. And what they're looking for is to see dramatic improvements in a carpet. And the more dramatic you can show what you can do and show off, wow, this is totally trashed, now it looks brand new. This is very powerful because to them, they're looking at, wow, somebody has carpets that are even more trashed than mine. And look at, he made them look like new. And that gives them hope. And so it's those 5 themes that if you're looking for a budget shopper, you want to include those in your marketing power. So it's powerful equipment, low price, speedy service, big guarantees, and before and after photos. Next slide. Now, those same thing, I'm going to go quickly through these. Those full service consumers, they hear that. Those are not powerful motivators for them. Matter of fact, it's just the opposite. So big, powerful equipment scares them. Their job is relatively clean. It just needs a little fluffing up, maybe a spot or 2 to get out. So the idea that big equipment coming into their very delicate, expensive house actually scares them. So that is not a plus, because they know any trained professional can take care of their job without a problem. So the big, powerful equipment is not a plus. Low price. These are people who very much know that you get what you. If you're only charging a low amount, that means automatically to them you don't offer much of a service. So you get what you pay for. Low. I paid thousands of dollars to make that room look beautiful, and I'm not going to have somebody come in there for $49 and screw it up. Speedy service. This is also not inviting to them because these plenty plan ahead and they're doing maintenance cleaning. So the idea that somebody is there and can be out at your house in an hour makes them stop and think, why isn't this company more busy? How can they possibly be available to me right away? So that is not a big, again, it doesn't look like you're not very good if you're just waiting for my phone call. Big guarantees makes them think that, oh, is something going to go wrong? Now, everybody should offer a guarantee, but you don't want to flaunt that to this consumer market because they think, ooh, do I have to worry about it? And the last thing that these customers want to do is think that they may have to complain. The other theme for the budget shoppers is dramatic before and after pictures. This is the worst thing that you could show one of these consumers because to them, they're looking at this grossed out carpet. They can't believe that anybody would live in an environment that looked like that. And they wonder, can you work in my nice clean house? And what was the job you were just at? Did you sanitize your equipment before you got to my house? So that's why those themes do not work well for the consumers. Next slide. What does work is they have a different set of things that they want to know. They want to see the message that this is a professional service. And a professional service is one that looks like they know what they're doing. They have credentials. They are master cleaners. They are certified firms. They belong to the industry. These are things they want to know. These people have been around and they look professional. Everything looks polished. They know how to be on time and not cause problems. Their biggest goal is they need a service to be performed and they don't want to have any grief or accidents that happen. So professional service is of the utmost high value that they can do. They also need to know about knowledge and credentials. So they want to be able to look and say, this person has been fully trained and that he is a certified technician or a master cleaner or a journeyman cleaner, whatever those credentials are. This is very important that you put those out there, that you have those compared to the other companies who don't. And they also want to get confirmation from social media. If you have a lot of reviews on Yelp or Angie's List, you actually want to put that very visible on your website, that you have how many 5-star ratings you have. This is a confirmation that you know what you do and you can perform the quality service that you provide. The other thing they're looking for is expertise, and they will pay for this. So you had years of being in business. This is a place where owner-operators have a big advantage over larger companies because the owner-operator has, many years behind them. They've been there, done that, and they care about each of their customers more than the best of their employees. So if you've been in business for more than 7 years, you want to flaunt that. That is a selling point. And if it's the owner doing the work, you want to make that perfectly clear. The owner will be the one showing up to do your work. The other thing they want is confidence that you can perform the job. And this is where confidence that you think you know what you're doing and that you can go into a house, you know how to evaluate a situation and that you know what to do to get it done and you're realistic about it. You want to look like you know how to work in a nice house and give this feeling that the consumer is in good hands. So this conveying of confidence is very important. And then the final thing, where the other group was looking for dramatic before and after pictures, what this group wants to do is they want to see you working in houses that are like theirs, or actually preferably slightly nicer than their home. So if you want to show pictures of you and your technicians working in very nice homes and having your van outside, your branded van outside of your target market home. So again, nicer than what your actual target market is. The way I would describe that is whoever those people are, their boss, what would their house look like? That is whose houses you want to show in your pictures. Now, these themes, the budget person would love to have all these services, but the thing is they would know they can't afford it. So there's, even though they would love those things, they just know if they were to come to your website and you're conveying these marketing themes, they go, oh, I wish I could have that, but I know I can't afford it. So they will automatically turn away and not call you and ask what's your lowest price. So those are the main things. Next slide. That when you want to convey that in your copy and in what the actual ad looks like. So we can kind of see the two different websites. One is on the left, you see the dramatic before and after picture of the cleaning. The prices are clearly stated in the middle of the page. The services, the process, and the tools are very visible there. That's exactly what the budget consumers want. On the other side, you can see a very nice, elegant house, very clean. Then there's a video there that shows the same type of thing. All the copy is talking about the full service experience and how it's going to go flawlessly for them. Many years of experience and all of the benefits that they offer that the budget companies don't would be clearly listed. So that's the way, if you want that somebody comes to your website, they're either going to know that they're in the right place or the wrong place, and make that perfectly clear. And if you do that, your marketing will be far, far more effective. There you go, Jeff.
Well, thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. I think most of us have been guilty of the before and after photo. Whenever you're in a job, you see a dramatic difference, you have to grab the camera. You can't help yourself. So, some good advice there. Hey, Tim, is Tim Miller with us today? Tim, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Let's do some questions. We have some questions from the audience, and we'll do a couple of these before we get into your presentation, Tim. So the first question we have here is probably mainly for you, Steve, and I think you kind of touched on this, but maybe you can give us some highlights. And also, as we talk about these questions, we have a quick poll up here for our audience. So if you'd like to take part of that, the question is, are you content with the size of your company, or do you want to grow? So if you'd like to tell us what you think, you'll see the results as we go through this. So Steve, the question is this. We'll do a couple of these, but the first one's for you. Which type of marketing is best for owner-operator carpet cleaning companies? So the small operator, what do you think?
Well, the marketing depends on what stage of growth the company is. If it's a startup company and you're trying to establish a full work schedule, again, that really requires hundreds, really up to 1,000 customers per year to keep a schedule fully booked. So therefore, you're going to have to focus your marketing on advertising, things that you can get your name out in front of the right type of customers. And so that is where people always like put that down. You go, no. Your main goal, don't worry about how profitable. You don't want to be losing money on an advertisement, but you want to be filling your schedule, because once you start filling your schedule, that's when you'll get some repeat. But what you're really after is you're after the referrals from advertising. The people who call in an ad generally are one-time customers. There's nothing you can do about that. But so often, if you go and do an outstanding job for one of these budget consumers, they will go back to, let's use an example, they will call up their mother and say, because maybe it's the mother-in-law who's coming or whoever's coming over, and they'll say, wow, your carpets look really great. And then you say, yeah, I use this, Joe's carpet cleaning over here, and I was really happy with what he did. And now that person, the mother who they're talking to, might not be all that happy with the company they have, and they see what you had, and they'll say, well, can you give me his telephone number? That's the one that will then be your lifetime customer. And that's how a startup company gets those. If you have an established business and you want to make it grow, you have to stay in touch with customers base that you have, because that increases the frequency they call, their loyalty. Allows you to increase the perceived value of your company, so you can raise your prices, but most of all by staying in touch with them through the mail, like newsletters and reminder cards. That's when they think about you in a positive way more often, and you get more referrals, and that is how you grow.
Perfect. Appreciate that. Just to let everyone know, the poll is closed, and it looks like everyone who's listening in and watching wants to grow. We have 87% that want to grow their company. 13% of you out there are content with how you are now. So interesting poll results. I appreciate everyone's input on that. Hey, Tim, let's have you start off with this next question. The question is this: if you were a new company with very little startup marketing money, what would you do?
So I'm going to assume that that's a restoration company.
Let's assume that. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, that's a very broad question. I'm going to address some of that in my presentation. You have a number of options. You can try and get on some TPAs, which may be problematic if you're a small company. But probably one of the things that would make the most sense is, as the owner, go out and try to develop a few select relationships with strategic partners who would be willing to refer you. This could be insurance agent, plumber, HVAC contractor. Those would probably be the most likely initial folks to work on. Now, it's going to be very difficult to scale that model, but if I was just starting out, that's what I would want. Because if I could get, I mean, heck, there can be some companies that have built their entire business on 3 plumbing contractors' referrals. So that's what I would do, I think, if I was starting out with very little in terms of resources.
All right, good stuff. Steve, you have anything to add to that?
Very little money. You have to get creative, and especially if you know people. When I started my business, I happened to know some very influential people, realtors, and that they were able to start supplying me people. I also had in-laws that knew a lot of people and were very active in the church. That allowed the word of mouth to get out. So if I was new and didn't have a lot of money, I'd start looking for where can I clean carpets for free for strategic people, like nonprofit organizations where the people who work in that building are very affluent. And I would just be looking for how can I demonstrate what I do. And I would be trying to be fully booked, even though I wasn't making any money, but it would be strategic, not just cleaning for anybody, but places where I think that I could get possibly referrals by doing a good job.
All right, appreciate that. Good stuff. Let's do one more question, and either one of you can comment on this one. It's an interesting one. How can we effectively pump up sales without knowing from day to day if we have a technician to complete the jobs? Kind of a pickle there, I guess. What do you guys think?
Well, I'll start, and Steve, I'm sure you have something to say on that. I think if you're in the restoration business, or if you want to be, one of the things that is going to be a fundamental aspect of your character is the ability to take on challenging situations and figure out how to fix them. It's just sort of the nature of the restoration entrepreneur. And so, this is one of those situations. It's the chicken or the egg, which comes first. And generally speaking, having more work than you can handle is a better situation than having more technicians than you can put to work. Now, this doesn't mean that you put yourself in an obvious situation where you're going to fail on your service delivery promises to your customers. But what it does mean is, if you're going to have to stretch, if you're going to have to go out on jobs yourself, if you're going to have to hire a temporary labor to help you on a particular day, generally speaking, you go out and get the work. Obviously within certain limits, but I think this is a critical growth challenge that all restorers are going to face. And the smaller you are, the more difficult it is. But I don't see any other way around it other than you find a way to make it happen. You find a way to stretch your resources and get the job done.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Steve, what words of wisdom do you have?
Well, if you're larger, you always need to be looking for quality people. Even if you don't have a position for them, and then you create the jobs to bring that person on. When you find a quality person, that is, you grab hold of them and you make it work out. But as I was a one-man operation for a lot of my career, I started with a larger company, and then I sold that and then became a one-man operator. But from the very earliest days of being in business, I always networked with other carpet cleaners. I didn't see them as competition. I saw them as potential partners on things. So if I ran into a commercial job and I needed extra trucks or a machine broke down, I always knew other people that I could call. And some of the best, as I got more experience, the best connections I had were other new carpet cleaning companies that would love an opportunity to ride along with somebody who knew what they were doing. They had time on their schedule. They needed, you know, money, and I could subcontract to them. So I didn't have to hire them. I could pay them because they were a business. I could hire them to come out and be a subcontractor for me. They had the opportunity to work with a skilled person. And this helped out a lot of times when I was injured, or if a machine broke down, I would use their equipment. I would pay them a reasonable amount for it, but they had the opportunity to work with a guy who's been in business for longer than they had. And so it was a win-win situation, but I always networked with the other people. I saw the other carpet cleaners as associates in a certain sense. And I think that's the key. If you're small, you really need to have other people in the industry to fall back to.
Very good. Appreciate that. Well, I'll tell you what, for time's sake, let's move on. Tim, you should be able to advance your slides if you'd like to give that a shot. And there we go. So why don't you tell us a bit about capturing clients?
All right, away we go. All right, so whenever you're thinking about growing your business, really the first questions that I think are important to ask are, where are you now, where are you going, and what's standing in your way? And I think we want to look at a couple of things here based on the varied audience that we probably have. Now, the first question is, who are you? And I understand we've got carpet cleaning companies, we've got restoration companies, we may have janitorial companies, and some combination of all of those, and maybe some other folks too. So really, the first question is, what are you trying to do? And from my perspective, that may mean that you're a carpet cleaning business that would like to add a little bit of restoration, or you might be a carpet cleaning business that would like to transition into restoration as your main focus. Or you might be a janitorial service company that wants to do some water mitigation work for your clients when they get those opportunities, which is ridiculously more profitable than your janitorial work. Or you may just want to be able to service a couple of clients. So there's a lot of variation in what you might want to do, and that's really important. You've got to decide, am I dabbling at this, or am I going to become a serious player? And then the key question is, what are you willing to change or do differently to get what you want? And this is a big one, because if you're not willing to put in the effort, then it's probably not going to give you the results that you want. Now, as I was responding to that question earlier, you can probably pick up a little extra business without making major changes, right? Like I said, and I'll talk a little bit about how to build a value proposition and some of the things that you would need to do. But an owner, the voice of an owner is extremely powerful. And so having conversations with key referral partners can be a great way to pick up some additional business, but you're not really looking to go whole hog into it. Okay, so you can do that without major changes. But I like to tell you the truth about this industry. If you're really looking to build a robust restoration business, whether you're going to be focused on residential work or commercial work or some combination, there's no magic bullet. There are no secrets that if I give them to you will unlock the floodgates of cash that will be pouring down upon you. There is no easier, softer way. And what we're dealing with is a maturing industry in restoration. And what that means is there is excess competition and capacity, and there is ongoing downward pressure on margins, which are still dramatically better than typically janitorial service or carpet cleaning, although those are great businesses in their own right. But those margins are being depressed and will continue to be depressed. There is a movement towards managed repair that will continue to grow stronger, but there are still tons and tons of opportunities for people that want to be in the restoration business today. But there is no free lunch. There's some low-hanging fruit that's available, but you very, very quickly have to start climbing the tree to get the other fruit. So what I want to share with you are 4 major areas of focus if you're looking at developing your restoration business. So the first thing you really have to work on is strategy and tactics, okay? Now, when I think about marketing strategy, I really think about differentiation strategy, which is just what it sounds like. What makes you different and better than the competition? You know, whenever you're calling on somebody who you want to give you business, whether it's an agent or a plumber, property or facility manager, or an adjuster or a realtor or anybody, you have to understand that they've probably seen 1,000 people just like you over their career. Okay, and those 1,000 people probably say pretty much the same thing. Okay, you know, we're the best, we do the best work, we're the you know, we've got certified technicians, we work 24/7, blah blah blah, all the same things that they've heard a million times. Now, the challenge here is that people don't change unless there is meaningful difference. So you really have to think about what makes me different and better than the other, depending on what market you're in, 100, 200, 300 competitors that I have calling on this same prospect. Now, when you think about what makes you different and better, there's a number of different ways to consider this, but one of the most important things to think about is how does your differentiation address your target's pains? So what I mean by that is none of the prospects that you will be calling on in the restoration market as referral partners will care about whether or not you have the Honcho 9000 Super Sucker out in the parking lot. Okay, what they care about are their business problems. So just as a few examples, an insurance agent is really focused on policyholder retention and generating word-of-mouth referrals. A plumber is dealing with the new low-price competition coming into the area and taking away his established clients. And maybe he's worried about downstream liability or what to do when one of his techs doesn't tighten a compression fitting and floods a basement. A property manager is thinking about being proactive rather than reactive. They're thinking about how to control costs because they don't budget for restoration work, and so on. So your differentiation is about them, not about you. The sad truth is nobody really cares about you. Nobody cares about me either, so don't feel bad. But the point I'm trying to make is that people change for their reasons, not for ours. So we want to make sure that our strategy is focused on their reasons, their problems, their challenges. Now, to go along with your strategy, you need some tactics, okay? Now, I just mentioned several examples of the target's pains. So what you want to do is figure out, okay, how would I help an insurance agent increase policyholder retention? How would I help a property manager reduce restoration costs? And those questions are beyond the scope of a webinar this short, but suffice it to say that with a little creativity and a little out-of-the-box thinking, there are many ways that you can do that in order to put together a program that speaks specifically to the challenges that your prospects are facing. And when you combine strategy and tactics, you come up with what we call a value proposition. And so basically, this is first taking your differentiation, and which is your marketing strategy, and you want to translate that into specific actions that address target pain. And then you want to take your proprietary tactics, which are specific to the vertical that you're calling on, agents, plumbers, property managers, and so on. And now you have this sort of whole basket of goodies, right? And so now you use that and you trade it basically in exchange for the referral relationship. So in other words, we would like to have you refer our company. And in exchange for that, we have this really nifty value proposition that is going to help you with some of the business challenges that you're facing. So this is central to your offer, and it answers the question, why should somebody refer, hire, or work with you instead of somebody else, or for that matter, doing whatever it is they're doing now? Okay, the second thing I want to talk about, so we've talked about strategy and tactics. The second thing, and sometimes this gets overlooked by marketing and sales development people like me, but it is so central, it cannot be overstated. It cannot be overstated. And that is, you've got to be delivering above and beyond customer service. right? So once you've got the job, now, as Steve talked about, all great businesses are built to some degree or another on referrals. And referrals are dependent on how you actually do the job. But interestingly, it's not on how you do the job technically. Now, you can't leave the big, you can't leave the job wet. You can't leave, a bunch of stains all over the carpet, right? But from an assumption that you can do a competent technical job, the key then is that 80% of the customer's determination of quality of the job is based on their relationship with the techs actually doing the work. This is so important. And so customer service training and sales training is absolutely critically important for your production people. And the key is to focus on creating customer cheerleaders. Now, this is not a new concept, but it's a critical one to revisit because we forget over and over and over again. But a cheerleader is somebody so thrilled with the service they receive from you that they can't wait to go out and tell their family, friends, and colleagues about how great you are. And this quote by Jim Rohn, "One customer well taken care of could be more valuable than $10,000 worth of advertising," absolutely right. And here's a golden nugget for you. Go on YouTube, search Jim Rohn, and you will have a plethora of fantastic sales and marketing training to choose from, absolutely free. So when you start to embrace this idea of above and beyond service, you want to start to build systems in your business so that it is duplicated the same way every single time at this very, very high level. So we think about creating positive moments of truth. There's, just as a brief example, just so everybody knows what I'm talking about, if a customer is waiting for you to show up to take care of their flooded basement, and you pull up and you sit in the van for 5 minutes before you get out, is that a positive moment of truth or a negative moment of truth? Clearly, it's a negative moment of truth. If the window rolls down and a cigarette comes flying out and hits on their lawn, and you come out in your sunglasses and your untucked, sweaty shirt and walk across the lawn to the front door, those are all negative moments of truth, which are kind of fun examples, so we can we can understand. So when we think about and create processes for how we want to do it, which would be basically the opposite of what I just said, you want to memorialize that into service circles, right? So when you're training new employees, you train them. This is the way we do it, okay? So that it gets repeated over and over and over again. And you do this for each aspect of your service delivery, from when the phone call comes in, to when the guys arrive, to how they handle the mitigation loss, to how they handle the translation into the repair job, and so on. Okay, the third element of what I want to share with you guys today is integrated sales process. Now, if you're a small company right now, this may not resonate much, because if you're the owner that's going out and talking to your customers, this will likely be the very best salesperson you will ever have for your company. Sorry. But in terms of developing relationships and connecting with the customer, and especially transitioning from the mitigation job to the repair or the contents job, the voice of the owner is extremely compelling. But as soon as you grow and you get off the truck, this is going to start to be a problem. So your leads are only as good as your company's ability to close them, regardless of where they come from the internet, from your sales activities, whatever. And so increasing close rates with absolutely no additional marketing activity or cost can make a huge impact not only on revenues, but commissions of your salespeople, but also, incredibly importantly, net profit. And the more you close, the better return on investment you get in your marketing and advertising, and the more you work to capacity. And remember, net profit is maximized between break even and capacity, right? Because all those fixed expenses fall to the bottom line. Now, the next thing I want to talk about, and this might be one of the most important ones, and the last one, is maximizing your net profit, right? So let's take a little walk around a financial health checkup of a typical restoration company. So we consider your business healthy when the owner is making a market wage. In other words, what would it cost to replace you? So not the $30,000 you're taking, but what would it cost really to replace you? You have taxes saved in the bank, so when it comes time to pay them, you write a check instead of sweating out how you're going to come up with the money to pay your taxes. you make at least a 10% net profit. Between 10 and 15% is absolutely achievable. You have 2 months core capital reserves, in other words, 2 months overhead in the bank. You have labor efficiency ratios that are low, meaning you have a high labor efficiency. You have 45 days accounts receivable time. You're getting timely financial reports. You're repaying debt if you have it. You're managing your credit line effectively and efficiently. And then we're going to talk about this camp idea in just a second. So obviously, most of us would say, wow, that'd be a pretty healthy business. I'd love to be in a situation like that. And let's talk about that 10% net profit just very quickly. Not net profit on the P&L, but actually in a bank account. So you can take it out and do whatever you want with it. Absolutely critical. So let's talk about that a little bit more. And this is really something we call mastering the profit equation. We have all grown up in business under the old paradigm, which is revenue minus expenses equals profit, right? We generate revenue, we pay all our expenses, and whatever's left over, that's our profit, right? Simple. That's what they told us, told everybody for, generations. But the new paradigm, and one that I wish I had figured out many, many years ago, is revenue minus profit equals expenses. Now, as entrepreneurs, most of you have grown your business up by your own bootstraps, okay? And if you had $50,000 in operating expenses to run your company, you ran it for $50,000. If you had $500,000, you ran it on $500,000. So the idea here is that you pay yourself first. You take your profits first, and then what's left over is expenses. Now, obviously, you don't just say, well, gee whiz, I think I'd like to make 40% net profit. It's not very realistic, and you're probably not going to be able to run your business. But it is amazing how many people work so hard and at the end of the year have nothing to show for it except a number on paper that they can then pay taxes on. Woo-hoo. Okay? So when you start paying yourself first, you will find that amazing things start to happen in your business. This CAMP idea, Cash Accumulation Management Plan, it's really consists of a few elements. A mini business plan. You need to understand your break-even. You need to understand your cash gap. Where are the gaps? And where you're going to get into cash flow crunches. And you need to have a revenue and profit budget. And all of this stuff, you work towards the ultimate goals. And then really, in order to maximize net profit and really to run a business that you aren't going to have to run your entire life, a business that you can actually step away from, it's really about systems, processes, and people. So you've got to be working on high performance systems and processes. And some of this stuff is sort of basic, like an org chart and job descriptions, but it's amazing how few companies actually have those. And then your processes at your company. If I asked you, hey, how do you handle an intake call at your company? Can you pull out a manual and show me? It's critically important that you do that. And then all these other things, work plans, checklists, scripts, documents, forms, policies, videos, almost like creating, as Mike Gerber would say, a franchise prototype of your company. How does your company work? When you build these systems and processes, you start to generate a net profit generating machine, and that's what we all want. So those are the 4 elements that I would share with you at this point. Obviously, we've just scratched the surface, but hopefully this has given you some sense of what's involved in growing a robust restoration business.
Tim, that's great information. Really appreciate it. Gives everyone a chance to analyze what they're doing and look at the numbers. I guess CAMP takes on a whole new meaning for some today. So we have about 10 minutes to go. We have several more questions from our audience. We can't get to all of them, but let's go through a few. Steve, you still with us?
I am.
All right, good. So here's a good question we could look at. Oh, before we do that, here's a poll. We have a quick poll for the audience. The question is, are you satisfied with your net profit? And are you able to pull that profit out of your company for personal use? Well, I hope the answer is yes for some of you folks, but take a moment and answer that poll. Participate if you like, and we'll see the results as we go through the questions here. All right, here's the question. It's a big one, and you guys might struggle with this. How do I find qualified workers? So they're out there. I mean, they're knocking on your door, right? They're knocking on your door. What do you think? Tim, why don't you start? What would you do?
Okay. All right. So here's the first thing to think about. Superior people are about 3 times as productive as, the ones that are, drawing breath, right? In other words, you have to first start off by thinking about, okay, what do I want this person to do? And then what can I afford? And it's that old, story about paying peanuts, right? So obviously, if you're a small company and you're just starting out, you may not have a big budget, but you want to be thinking about how can I make employment as gainful and interesting and in some ways fulfilling as I possibly can. And for a lot of people, especially millennials, it's not all about money. So you need to really give some thought to that. The other issue is you need to be very clear on what you want people to do, which is why you need a job description. And then I think you need to be on the lookout all the time for people that you interact with in your day-to-day goings around town, in your personal life and in your business life, looking for people that demonstrate the kind of character that you're looking for. Customer service is so bad that it really stands out when we get good customer service. And when you run across a person like that at the grocery store or at the drive-through, I think you should always be looking for people, as Steve was saying earlier. Now, I also am a big believer, and I won't go too deep into this because I don't want to take up all the rest of the time. I'm a big believer in assessments. Now, for when we talk about production people, I'm just going to assume we're talking about technicians. I think probably DISC is well worth the investment to understand the nature of the person that you're dealing with and how well that aligns with the job that you want them to do. I think you need to be skillful in terms of interviewing. And I also think that one of the things that is so often not done, people are not onboarded properly. So you take somebody who could be a very successful candidate and you sort of throw them in the deep end of the pool and you hope that they swim. But if you had taught them, how to float and how to kick and all that, they might have been very successful at your company. It's like we're so desperate to hire sometimes that we don't want to take the time. We're just so relieved we finally got somebody that can pitch in, but we really do not get the most out of those people, and they often won't stay for a long period of time. So those are some thoughts.
It is a big challenge for most companies finding good workers. Steve, what do you think? You have anything to add?
Yeah, a couple things on this. One that Tim was mentioning, I think is very important, is as an employer, it's more than the amount that you pay. It is the environment, the potential. I think if I was hiring a carpet cleaner, I would want to show them that if they stay with me, we'll teach them a valuable skill that they can either use to go off and start their own business, or that there would be a place for them if they stayed with the company. And the place that I found that you do not go to look is Craigslist. I mean, it's like these people is, who doesn't want a job, is looking on Craigslist for something to, I don't know. Anyway, that's not the place to go. Where I would go is you're looking for people who are already employed. And my suggestion is that you go to like Home Depot. And the reason I like Home Depot is the people who work at Home Depot are a little bit more hands-on kind of folks. And I would spend Saturday mornings there just kind of shopping around until you find somebody who provides outstanding customer service, who's helpful, who's friendly, who looks like the kind of person you would want. And the thing that anybody working at Home Depot has already been vetted, so that they've gone through their hiring, system, and it saves you some of the grief of having to go through that yourself. And you find somebody you like and you say, are you open to other employment possibilities? And I bet you they would say, what do you have in mind? And you hand them a business card and say, when can we get together for a cup of coffee? And then you be able to lay out how your job has more potential than where they see that they're going with their current job.
All right.
I love that.
Very
That's
good.
a great one. Yep.
Yeah. So we had a couple of comments that want some more marketing questions. So here's one. Either one of you can answer. What about cold calling? Doing your marketing with cold calls. What do you think?
Okay.
Does that still work? How would you approach that?
Okay. Well, I'm going to take that one.
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay. So, yes, cold calling does absolutely work, but let's just talk about what needs to happen with it. In fact, I would argue that there's no faster way to grow your business than through a direct sales effort, and that's what I spend most of my time every day helping my clients do. So, cold calling with no game is a waste of time and money. Okay, but cold calling with the appropriate strategy and tactics behind you, which would lead you into the proper scripting, right, as part of a clearly defined sales process, absolutely effective. Okay, not easy, but absolutely it does work. It's happening every day, but you got to have those other components. Otherwise, what you end up with is what I call, the professional donut dropper. If you don't know what to say when you walk in, you're kind of dead meat, right? When they say, "Hi, can I help you?" And now you start stammering around about your restoration company and how great you are and your certified techs and your this and that, and they've heard it a million times. And so you've got to come in with a strong strategy and tactics. Let me say it this way, a strong value proposition, but you don't just vomit out the value proposition. You've got to find out what their pains are. And the first thing you got to do is get to the right person. So I'm going a little deeper in than is probably appropriate, but yes, it does work, but it has to be done correctly.
So what you're saying is a donut may not do the trick.
No,
Or
I mean,
pizza.
think about it. Really, in a certain way, it's a little insulting, isn't it? Right.
Yeah, I
So
guess it is. It could be.
I'm bringing in donuts, and I would expect that you're going to trust me with your valued customers because I spent $5 at Dunkin' Donuts. Now that doesn't mean that if you've got somebody doing it with a great personality who can connect with people, who can talk to people, it doesn't mean that it doesn't work at all. Okay, I'm just saying that it should never be, and when I teach it, it is never the primary strategy that we use for cold calling. And that's not to say that we would never bring donuts or that we would never bring food, but that's never going to be the primary reason for making a call.
All right, appreciate that. Steve, I don't know if you want to add to that or we can move to another question. What do you think? You want to talk about cold calling?
The only thing I would say is for carpet cleaning, cold calling would apply when you're dealing with businesses. You're going to have much better success. I would also include networking. So business lead groups, chamber mixers, things like this give you an opportunity to go and talk to business people. But you're also, for carpet cleaning, when you're networking like that, gives you an opportunity to also talk about their home carpets. So I'm much more into networking than I would be going out to locations and actually cold calling but that does work for business, not as successful. I think there are better ways that I would approach it for residential cleaning.
Okay. We have about 2 minutes to go. Let's do one more question, then we'll address this poll result we have up here. Our last question is this: what are your thoughts on direct mail or postcard campaign?
Steve, I think that's for you.
Okay.
I think handle that? Direct mail.
Direct mail, I think there's opportunities there. I think and I'm assuming we're going back to a company who's starting up, who their prices are competitive. What you want to do is run a test. And you have to think not just for direct mail or postcard, but it could be for AdWords. It could be money that you spend with Yelp or Angie's List, whatever these are. You have to think of what would be a reasonable test to, let me use another example. Is something like door hangers. Is you would do a test with 2,500 door hangers. And you put those out and you say, what is the return I need to get from that? And if you get that return, then you do it again, and then you start increasing the number that you have. But if your test failed and it's not paying for your advertising expenses or not getting a good enough return on investment, then you stop it and go to another one. And a company starting out needs to be thinking about 4 different advertising systems they need to be testing simultaneously to be able to find the multiple ones that will provide that needed workflow. It's not one. I see so many companies say, oh, I'm going to commit all to this one thing. and that this will provide all the customers I need. There is no such thing. So all of those things I think have potential, but you have to test it, make sure you're getting the return on investment you want, and then increase it. But otherwise, if you're not, stop and go on to the next one.
All right, appreciate that. Hey, did you guys notice the quick poll results? The question was, are you satisfied with your net profit, and are you able to pull that profit out of your company for personal use?
Yeah.
And 52% said no. Is that surprising?
Actually, no. In fact, I'm actually more surprised that it's not higher. And so,
okay.
Steve,
yeah, I would have expected the no to be higher also.
Yeah. So we must have a select group on this call.
Sure we do.
But you know, when you think about it, the fact that over half of the people on this call said no, it's a stunning thing to think about. You know, I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, and so have you, and so has Steve. And we know how hard you work. You know, and you work because you're thinking, at least I am, you know, if I do this just a little better, if I do it a little smarter, if I've learned my lessons, if I can just grow my revenue, if I can control my expenses, there's that brass ring right out there. And when I think of the nights and weekends and the hours that I've put in, I sometimes wonder if I've had it all wrong from the beginning. And that's this idea of paying myself first. And I think maybe a better way of saying it is even feed your profit first. So that no matter what happens, there's always going to be, at the end of the year or quarterly, whenever you're going to take distributions, there's going to be profit to reward you for the blood, sweat, and tears of owning the business.
Well, that's why we're in business, for the reward, obviously. Yeah. All right. Hopefully, that's true. Well, gentlemen, we are about out of time. I wanted to get to this slide here because we want to thank you for your time, but also give you an opportunity to tell the audience and tell the industry a little bit about what you can do for them as far as business coaches and consultants. Steve, why don't you tell us just for a moment what you do for your clients?
Well, my goal is I really love the carpet cleaning industry. That was just one that was very profitable for me. It was a pleasure to be hands-on, you know, technician for 30 years. But I did learn some of the skills, part of what I shared today. But starting up a business, I discovered and created a program that is actually a checklist. That you do the things on the checklist. When you click off the last one, you have a successful business that's self-sustaining, able to pay both the business and personal expenses. And I like what Tim is talking about is I think that you should put out as the very first thing, how much do you want to earn for your personal use? And then figure out what do I need to do to attain that. So I completely agree that that has to be like your main focus for starting in business. But the Be Competition Free program, which I've had for almost 20 years now, that has been very, very successful, is the way that you develop that clientele into a repeat referral clientele is by staying in touch with them, and snail mail still wins out. So I have a system that of branded materials that my job is to make you look very good and very professional. And that is the Be Competition Free marketing program. So I essentially design all your printed marketing tools that you'll need, and there is a system for putting them into play, extremely effective, and it works very, very well. It doesn't matter what size the business is. But once you start having a clientele, you've got to start thinking about how do we keep those people for the long term.
All right, appreciate that, Steve. I know you bring a lot of value to your clients. Tim, what about you? What do you do for your clients?
Well, we basically focus on three things. We work exclusively with restoration contractors and people in the cleaning industry that are looking to be in the restoration industry. And we are the best in the world at helping restoration contractors develop direct sales programs so they can generate their own revenue and not be at the mercy of third-party administrators, weather, or luck. We then help them close more of the leads they are generating from any source. That's that integrated sales process I was talking about before. And then the third thing we do is help them maximize their net profit through our operations and management consulting business or consulting process. So that's our fundamental broad strokes of what we do. And so we are marketing strategists, sales development experts, and specifically restoration and commercial cleaning operations and management experts.
All right. Well, I appreciate both of you being here today, and I encourage anyone listening in, whether it's this live broadcast or the recording, which we'll send out to everyone later, to reach out to either one of you to use your services.
Oh, Jeff, one other quick thing.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I forgot about this. Very quickly, I am offering to anybody that's interested 4 hours of marketing strategy webinar recordings, as well as 3 special reports. Just email me at the email address that was up and request it. And
there we go.
That is not available anywhere else. So if you're interested in really getting into the restoration business. Thanks.
All right, very good. Both of you are easy to find online as well, I know that. I want to thank our viewers for being here today. You will receive an email. Everyone that signed up for the broadcast, you'll get an email with a link to this recording. We do have another session scheduled for October 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. It's October 23rd. It's water damage restoration, industry best practices for faster drying. So it'll be a technical webcast, so put it on your calendar, and of course we'll let everyone know in advance when that's getting closer to the target date. Well, that will end our broadcast today. Again, thank you everyone for being here, and be sure to read your latest Cleanfax, and we'll talk to you again another time. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.